Session resumes. We continue with the interpellation on the proposed resolution.
Mr. Speaker, to answer the earlier question of the Majority Leader, hindi po ito pareho ng naunang resolution which talks about mandating or requiring Muslim women in the Bangsamoro government to don or wear the hijab. So yun po ay isang requirement for a positive action on the part of the Muslima or the Muslim woman. Ito po ay isang call on government agencies who have the state responsibility to protect the rights of its constituents. Constitutionally mandated protection of the right to the free exercise of religion ang atin pong ina-uphold dito sa resolution na ito. So this is a directive to state agents or mga opisina ng gobyerno na irespeto yung kagustuhan ng isang Muslim na kababaihan kung paano niya na-exercise kung paano niya in-interpret yung requirement na haya or modesty sa ating paniniwalang Islam.
So ang ibig pong sabihin nito, Mr. Speaker, itong resolution na ito ay panawagan para sa mga state agency na irespeto yung wearing hijab of Muslim women. Whereas yung last na resolution natin ay ito ay nire-require ang lahat ng Bangsamoro women to wear hijab when they are working or inside the office. Yun ang pinagkaiba nitong dalawa. Yun po ba tama po ba ang aking pagkaka-interpret?
Tama po yun, Mr. Speaker. While in the previous resolution, the directive is towards individuals, citizens, private individuals who happen to work in the government. This resolution is directed at institutions, so mga opisina ng gobyerno, na sundin kung anong ginagawa sa ibang rehiyon at huwag maging very restrictive in their interpretation of the regulations of their own offices to the detriment of their own constituents in the region.
Yun lang po, Mr. Speaker, aking katanungan para po maliwanagan ang sarili ko at ang ating mga Bangsamoro kung ano ang pinagkaiba ng dalawang resolution na yun, sapagkat maaari po tayong tanungin kung ano po ang pinagkaiba ng dalawang resolution na ito. Yun lang po, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat.
Mr. Speaker, I give back the floor to the Majority Floor Leader.
Yes, Majority Floor Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation.
There is a motion to terminate the period of interpellation
Yeah,
debate.
Mr. Speaker.
There is a second.
Mr.
There
Speaker.
being no objection, the motion is approved.
Objection.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of amendment.
The period of amendments now open.
Mr. Speaker.
I move to terminate the period of amendment.
Mr.
There is a
Speaker.
motion to terminate the period of amendments, been seconded. There being no objection, the motion is approved.
Ito naririnig.
I move to approve and adopt
Quentin, hindi naririnig.
number 7
Anong
Nine.
capacity yun?
by this August body, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion to
Hindi
approve
naririnig.
proposed resolution number 795, subject to style.
Subject to style, Mr. Speaker.
Malima. Ay, kulang man
Seconded,
yan.
the motion is approved.
Hindi ka marinig.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed to number 2, proposed resolution on the business for the day. Proposed resolution number 797, Mr. Speaker. Before we proceed, Mr. Speaker, yes, nandun na pala. Proposed resolution number 797, entitled resolution expressing commendation to the 12 young Bangsamoro athletes who brought prestige and recognition to the Bangsamoro by exhibiting their skills and talents. gaining medals and overall champion during the Pan-Asia International Jiu-Jitsu competition held at the Ayala Circuit Mall, Manila last June 26, 2022. Mr. Speaker, there is an omnibus motion, Mr. Speaker, to dispense with the period of interpellation and debate, and furthermore for the approval of this, Mr. Speaker.
Subject to style.
Subject to style.
There is a motion to approve. There's an omnibus motion to dispense with the period of interpellation, debate, and the period of amendment, and the consequent motion to approve.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, before we proceed, Mr. Speaker, yes, there is a, I think, manifestation or recognition on the Deputy Minority Floor Leader by Patuan. This is with respect to the previous resolution, Mr. Speaker. Accordingly, she's signify her interest to interpret, but hindi po natin narinig, Mr. Speaker, dito sa Zoom. Nandun po siya, Mr. Speaker, si MP Patuan. I will allow her, Mr. Speaker, to. I think I move to.
Yes, the consideration of proposed resolution 795 is already terminated. It's already been approved, but we will allow the Deputy Minority Floor Leader to express the manifestation she would want to express.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can you hear me? Marinig po ako?
Yes, yes, you may proceed.
Wala naman akong objection doon sa resolution. But I think we need also to inform na yung may previous resolution tayo about hijab regarding the observance of hijab during February 1, yung parang overall observance. Yun yung isang resolution ata natin na napasa. But anyway, with regards to this particular resolution, based on the explanation of the author, parang ang example niya ay yung PSA. But however, Mr. Speaker, ang tono o ang content po ng resolution ay mukhang ang hindi compliant ay ang ating mga government agencies within BARM. But based on the example, Mr. Speaker, yung PSA po na nabanggit ay hindi po ahensya yan ng BARM. National agency po yan. At ang kadalasan na nagre-require talaga ng mga ganitong bagay ay mga agencies na hindi natin controlled. For example, yung NBI, itong PSA, at mga ibang agencies na nangangailangan ng ating information or mga information na may mga yung physical na pictures. So my suggestion, Mr. Speaker, para mapabilis na lang is will not limit this one because the issue actually is not within the BARM only, but it includes the other institution outside of us, like the national government agencies, for example, yung PSA, NBI. Yan yung most glaring na nagre-require ng mga ganito. So my suggestion is we will not limit to the BARM government agencies, but to the agencies BARM and national. Anyway, this is a request naman eh. We will include in and outside of the Bangsamoro government. Kasi yun yung mga kadil natin. We are not limiting it dito sa atin lang. Yun lang po, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I will require the principal, one of the principal authors to answer briefly.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the good lady from Cotabato and Maguindanao is correct. I think the title can be reformulated to capture yung sinabi ni MP Baintan. The body of the resolution in fact cites offices that are operating within the region. So we can we can make the necessary revision in the title to make it clear that we are talking about agencies of the government that are operating within the region and not just BARM government agencies.
Yeah,
And we thank the good MP for pointing that out.
yeah, I will ask, I will order the secretariat to cause the styling of the resolution in consultation with MP Ana Basman and MP Bayintan Ampatuan.
Thank you.
So there is a motion. There is a pending motion to approve.
To dispense with the omnibus motion to dispense of the period of interpellation and debate and further move for the approval.
Yes, there is a omnibus motion to dispense with the period of interpellation, debate, and amendment, and the consequent motion to approve resolution 795. It has been seconded. There being no objection, the motion is approved. Proposed resolution number 797 is by the Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed now to the next proposed resolution on the basis for the day. Proposed resolution number 798.
Yes, the Secretariat is directed to read the title of the proposed resolution.
I think
798.
798 and 799, Mr. Speaker, this resolution of the same subject matter and title, I think, Mr. Speaker. So may we approve that one separately or
I think we
consolidate?
need to consolidate.
Consolidate, Mr. Speaker. I move to consolidate proposed resolution number 798 and 799, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, there's a motion to consolidate the consideration of proposed resolution number 798 and 799. Is there any second? There being no objection, proposed resolution number 798 and 799 are consolidated.
Mr. Speaker, there is an omnibus motion to dispense with the, I move to dispense with the period of interpellation and debate and period of amendment. I further move for the approval of consolidated proposed resolution number 798 and 799, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to approve, to dispense with the period of interpellation, debate, and the period of amendment and the consequent approval of the same of the consolidated proposed resolution number 798 and 799. Is there any second? There being no objection, the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, we have a last resolution. Proposed resolution number 804. This resolution, Mr. Speaker, is have the same subject matter on the previous resolution 797, but this humble representation to the majority probably would like to approve these two resolutions separately, Mr. Speaker. Yes, so therefore, Mr. Speaker, I have an omnibus motion to dispense with the period of interpretation and the period of amendment, and I further move for the approval of proposed resolution number 804, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion.
Mr. Speaker, before approval, Mr. Speaker, can we see on the screen, Mr. Speaker, the resolution tackles right now? Kasi hindi po nakikita po natin sa sa screen po, Mr. Speaker, kung ano pong particular resolution po yan.
804, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
There is a motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion to dispense with the period of interpellation, debate, and amendment of proposed resolution number 804, and the further motion to approve the same. Is there any second? There being no objection, the motion is approved.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed now to the committee report, Mr. Speaker. Committee report number 121 on BTA Parliament Bill number 32. And
Secretariat, please mute those noisy members of the Parliament. Yes, Majority
Committee
Leader.
report number 121 in relation to BTA Parliament Bill number 32 and Act creating the Ranao Development Authority, prescribing its powers and functions and appropriating funds. Therefore, the parliamentary status of this bill, Mr. Speaker, is we are now on the period of interpellation and debate. may we respectfully recognize Baintan ng
MP
Batuan?
Susana.
MP Susana Nayate, Mr. Speaker.
To be followed by the lady from Lanao del Sur, MP Ana Tarhata Basman.
And last by MP Baintan ng Batuan, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Ms. Majority Leader. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum. Mr. Speaker, may I be allowed to introduce some amendments to BTA Parliament Bill number 32 for enhancement?
This is still the period of interpellation debate, ma'am. I think your concern will be tackled at the proper time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So you do not have any questions anymore.
No questions, Mr. Speaker, but just some amendments to enhance the bill.
We will give you the opportunity at the proper time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
May we now recognize the lady from Lanao del Sur.
Mr. Speaker, if the gentle lady, the principal author of the bill, is willing to yield to some clarificatory questions.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are ready for some clarificatory questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the outset, let me clarify that and also inform the body that I was a personal witness to the passion of the advocacy of the inclusion of the concerns of the Maranaos on the Lake Lanao as far back as the negotiations in the peace process. And I know humbly that this has been the clamor of the Maranaos way before that, and its inclusion in the comprehensive and in the different it's referring the different annexes and the multiple discussions during the peace negotiations, and its reflection in the original draft of the Bangsamoro Basic Law, and as is now formulated or languaged in the BOL, is a manifestation of the importance of this issue to a considerable sector of our society here in the Bangsamoro. The point of this clarificatory questions, Mr. Speaker, and I am sure is shared by us in the Parliament, is to strengthen and to give life to what our forebears have fought for in desiring more considerable role and participation in the management of waters that are included in our territories here in the region. So if I may begin, Mr. Speaker, in section 4 of the bill, it talks of the main point of the proposed legislation. May I ask, when we refer to Ranao, and I understand this does not only pertain to one single body of water, what bodies of water are covered by this bill?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the bodies of water that are included in the definition Ranao region. So if we look at section 3, shall refer to inland waters defined as Lake Lanao along with its shoreline and all lakes within the province of Lanao del Sur, including all city, towns, and municipalities within the province of Lanao del Sur, Mr. Speaker.
May we know if we have a listing of all of those lakes so referred to? So definitely Lake Lanao is included.
Lake Dapao, Mr. Speaker, as well as the 4 major tributaries that are included in the definition, Mr. Speaker, namely Masyo, Lake Gata, tributaries, Ramain, and another one, Malaig.
These tributaries, the aforementioned areas of Masio, Ramay, and the rest are also all part of Lake Lanao, I believe, if that is correct.
It is part of the definition, Mr. Speaker, in the Lake Lanao region.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, as defined in the bill. However, my clarification, Mr. Speaker, is if outside of Lake Dapao, the three enumerated and specifically cited bodies of water are all part of Lake Lanao, the 4 tributaries. That's a clarification. I also don't know the answer, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, we believe, Mr. Speaker, that it is encompassed in the greater definition of Ranao, which is Ranao region, Mr. Speaker. All those tributaries that are supplying water to the main body of water, which is the bigger one, the Lake Lanao. So including tributaries, Mr. Speaker, we will include that in the definition of protection.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that because I ask the names of the specific bodies of water that are covered by this bill is because if you look at Section 22 of Article 13 of the BOL, which I believe is the enabling provision or the source provision for the creation of this authority, it reads thusly. So the Bangsamoro government shall have exclusive powers over inland waters, including lakes, marshes, rivers, and tributaries within its territory, except those that provide energy to power generating plants. The Parliament shall enact laws on the regulation, conservation, management, and protection of these resources and may classify the inland waters in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. And this is the part where this becomes the line of questioning becomes relevant. It shall create a Bangsamoro authority and offices for specific inland bodies of water that shall exercise management and regulatory powers over these bodies of water. So, Mr. Speaker, kaya ko po ito tinatanong kasi sa pagkakaalam ko po, meron po tayong isang national law that also governs a specific body of water, which is Lake Laguna. And there is Laguna Lake, which and there is such an entity as a Laguna Lake Development Authority. So dito po sa national law na ito, isang lake lang po ang ating pinapertain. However, in this bill, we are talking about various bodies of water, and I only wish to know if the options could be to specify these lakes in the bill so that we abide by the Section 22, or I don't know if we are going to read Section 22 as to mean that every authority or office on a specific inland water or inland body of water should pertain to one office, meaning one law only. That is the reason why I asked the specific bodies of water that are going to be covered when we talk about the Ranao Development Authority as covering all inland lakes and tributaries within the Ranao region.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we intend to cover all the sources of water for Lake Lanao so that there will be complete integrated water management. In fact, in the Laguna Lake Development Authority and its evolution, the amendments thereof, there is what you call Laguna Lake Region. So Laguna Lake Region is the same as the Ranao region, wherein all the sources of tributaries, watershed, forest covers, all that flows to the river or flows to the basin of the Laguna de Bay are included in the definition in the national government. So they included, in fact, the Laguna Lake Development Authority, one of the consultant that we consulted went as far as saying lahat po ng sources of water na nagsusupply ng tubig sa Ranao region should be included in the definition para ma-protect po natin yung ating lake. So we want to include also Lake Dapao because it's within the area, because we said that it's not just the city, but all the areas that are in Lanao del Sur will be covered by the Ranao region so that we can have an integrated lead agency to protect and then preserve our resources, water resources.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's good that the good lady has mentioned Laguna Lake region. I believe upon reading of the enabling law for the LLDA, the region therein pertain refers to one body of water, which is Lake Laguna, which is abutted by various cities, municipalities, and areas not covered by one administrative region. So meaning some parts might be abutting, let's say, Taguig, which is part of NCR. Some are abutting Rizal, Cavite, and others which are not part of NCR. Hence the reference to a Lake Laguna region. But it still pertains to a single body of water. And I ask this, Mr. Speaker, because in the discussions, again, I'm coming from the background or the context of how it was, how I was informed by the discussions in the peace process and later on in the BOL. There is a special consideration for Lake Lanao by reason of its valuable role in the generation of energy in not just in Lanao, in other parts of Mindanao, in fact. So my question is, shall we have a dedicated entity for Lake Lanao because of that unique situation or place of Lake Lanao in the lives of the Maranaos and the rest of Mindanao? And therefore, yung sinasabi natin na integrated water management system, I am also not sure. And again, this is, forgive my ignorance, if Lake Davao is connected to Lake Lanao. I am not certain about that, about whether that exists. But I understand that when we talk about Lake Lanao, it's very unique and special in its place compared to the other lakes and other formations of water or bodies of water in the province of Lanao del Sur.
Mr. Speaker, if there is a amendment to that effect that they want to exclude Lake Davao, we are amenable. But for the meantime, Mr. Speaker, Lanao region shall refer to all inland waters that includes Lake Davao. Meaning the jurisdiction or the territorial jurisdiction of this authority will include lahat po ng inland waters. Para isa na lang po yung authority, hindi fragmented po yung ating trabaho. Inaasikaso mo yung Lake Lanao, may isang body of water dyan na authority, meron ka na namang isang body of water. That is not good for right sizing. Kasi Mr. Speaker, when we speak of integrated, lahat po dapat tingnan. So we included that in the definition, all inland waters, defined as Lake Lanao along with its shoreland and all other lakes within the province of Lanao del Sur. So very clear po yung definition natin. It's not just the greater body, yung Lanao, but it also include all inland waters, including marshes, tributaries, rivers, yung mga maliliit na sources of water. So lahat po i-care po, ipoprotect, ipipreserve, i-regulate ng Lanao Development Authority, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maybe in the at the appropriate time we can further discuss whether we focus on Lake Lanao in this law or in this proposed legislation, or to cover the other bodies of water in the region, because
Yes, there's also a lake in Buluan.
Yes, but that's outside of Lake of Lanao del Sur. So, Mr. Speaker, that is my question, because while I understand that there should be one body managing multiple subject matters, including multiple bodies of water, the specialness of creating a specific authority goes against the grain of, as mentioned by my good colleague, of right sizing, because generally there are already instrumentalities of the government looking at the overall welfare or overall protection, preservation, conservation of our natural resources, including bodies of water, and that's the MENRE. So if we make this as an example, and also, Mr. Speaker, if I may also include the discussion of the jurisdiction of local government units, limited as they may be, over the bodies of water within their territorial jurisdiction. So when we make a specific law or a special law in relation to, for example, creation of the RDA, those things have to be considered. And it is clear to me in the discussions in the peace agreement and in the deliberations on the BOL and the BBL that the special attention was being put on Lake Lanao because of its importance and its special the special considerations of that lake. So, Mr. Speaker, I submit that discussion in the appropriate time, inshallah, later in this process of the legislation. My next question, Mr. Speaker, is on Section 5. It talks of the powers and functions of the authority. And in letter A, there is a power to conduct a consultative and comprehensive survey of the physical, natural resources, potentialities, and projected ecological risks of Lake Lanao and the region, particularly its social, cultural, historical, and economic conditions. Mr. Speaker, I wish to have some clarity only. When we defined Ranao region, we talked already of the lakes and the other bodies of water in the Lanao del Sur. When we talk of Lake Lanao and the region in this section, I hope our secretariat can flash it on the screen so that our colleagues online can also see this. So when we talk about Lake Lanao and the region, are we talking about including the conduct of these surveys, including in the terra firma, meaning the land and not just the lake? Or do we only mean that Lake Lanao and the region equals Ranao region as defined in Section 3?
Will we be clarified as to what terra firma means, Mr. Speaker?
Earth,
Earth. So
earth, ground.
what does the interpolator would like to ask the proponent?
If that formulation, Lake Lanao and the region on line 3, as projected on the screen, the inclusion of and the region, Lake Lanao and the region, means that it will also conduct the survey on the land side, or the shore and the land covered by the surrounding Lake Lanao. Or do we stick to the definition of Ranao region in Section 3?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we believe that this is about the Ranao region, Mr. Speaker.
So this can be reformulated for consistency of language.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, still in the same item. So continuing that sentence, so ecological risk of Lake Lanao and the region, particularly its social, cultural, historical, and economic conditions. I stop there, Mr. Speaker, because a brief comparison of LLDA in this reveals that it does not include historical and cultural in that law. Mr. Speaker, do we mean condition or significance? The cultural and historical significance of the lake, rather than historical and cultural condition of the lake.
What do we mean?
The distinction, Mr. Speaker,
as to what? The historical condition between condition and?
No, Mr. Speaker, what I mean is, sa atin pong enumeration, sinabi natin, nakasama doon sa isa survey ng RDA bilang isang function, ay alamin kung ano ang historical and cultural condition ng lake. Mr. Speaker, ang tanong ko po, is it correct to say condition or significance? Meaning, kung ano yung importansya ng Lake Lanao sa ating kultura at kasaysayan, o ito po ba ay kung ano na yung sitwasyon ngayon ng kultura at kasaysayan ng Lake Lanao? Kasi yung isa po ay mas stagnant dahil it's a matter of researching what it is, or yung isa po ay it can change over time na this year ito ang cultural condition, ito ang historical condition, next year iba na. So it's a matter of asking
Yes, Mr.
precise
Speaker.
term, Mr.
Mr.
Speaker.
Speaker, when we talk about social, cultural, historical, and economic condition, that refers to a analysis of what's happening to the lake, no? So when we say historical, it can include the importance, it can also include the historicity of Lake Lanao as one of the most ancient lakes in the world, like 10 million years old na po ang Lake Lanao. So we can include that in the definition. However, Mr. Speaker, pwede rin naman po nilang lagyan ng scientific, historicity. We are amenable to that, Mr. Speaker.
So, Mr. Speaker, in the appropriate time, maybe we can further discuss the appropriate term. I do not question the social, economic conditions. These are changing over time. This needs assessment. I think historical and cultural are matters for finding out, meaning asking the right people about the historical importance or the cultural importance of the lake to the people of the lake or the Maranaos, and therefore it adds value to what I've mentioned, that Lake Lanao is indeed very special in its situation, and it's very significant to the general population of the Maranaos. My next question, Mr. Speaker, is again on the same item. It continues and economic conditions, hydrologic characteristics, projected water demand, and water stress level. My clarification on this, Mr. Speaker, is what do we mean by projected water demand and water stress level? Is it the demand, the water demand from the communities deriving their water source from Lake Lanao? Or is there, again, I'm not a technical expert on water management, is there such a thing as water demand in the lake?
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the FGD that we had with the international lake expert, Adelina Borja from the Laguna Lake Development Authority, she said that the water level, the amount or the carrying capacity of Lake Lanao has never been measured. Therefore, if you do not measure how much the lake can give without breaking its ecological balance, is very dangerous. So, Mr. Speaker, water demand means all demand, domestic, agricultural, or even household use. It has to be incorporated in the projection. So that's the reason why he said we need to have a water balance measurement in Lake Lanao, because Laguna Lake has been doing it already for so many years. So they know the water balance of Laguna Lake. But in the case of Lanao, even all the participants agree that not even one barometer was given by the authorities na nandoon. So hindi po natin alam ngayon ang water demand or water balance. So that's included in the definition, Mr. Speaker. It's a highly technical term which hydrological experts will be the one to measure that. Experts, Mr. Speaker, on lakes.
I understand, and I wish as a layperson to be clarified. I think if my understanding of this matter is correct, the barometer measures the water level of a body of water. For example, in Marikina, they have a barometer which tells them if it's in the danger zone of overspilling, and therefore the community should be ready to prepare for flooding in the area. In the case of Lanao or Lake Lanao, it might be that the fact is the water level is decreasing, meaning there are endangered species or species that can no longer thrive or live in the lake because of the receding water level. So I understand, Mr. Speaker, water level. My point of clarification was when we say water demand, do we mean the demand in the surrounding community, by the surrounding communities over Lake Lanao, meaning how many cubic meters of water are utilized per day, per month, per year, for whatever purpose, and the source being Lake Lanao? Is that what we mean when we say projected water demand?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, water demand is defined as the volume of water requested by users.
Mhm.
Ibig sabihin lahat po ng gumagamit ng Lake Lanao to satisfy their needs. So it's in a simplified way, it's often considered equal to water abstraction, yung pag-extract ng water sa Lake Lanao without harming probably its ecological balance. Yun po yung dapat ma-project natin. The same way we're projecting ilan yung cubic meter na pwedeng water level elevation na hanggat saan lang ba pwede tayong mag-extract without damaging the lake, the ecological health of the lake.
And therefore that is the water stress level of the lake, the level at which the water in Lake Lanao should not be lower or should not decrease beyond that level, so that the ecological balance, as mentioned by our good colleague, is not threatened. So tama po na if it's user-based, meaning yung projected water demand is how much users extract from the Lake Lanao, then it might be correct to say that the coverage of the earlier question about including in the region includes terra firma, because it's the people on the land which use the water, which extract water from the lake. It's not those that are being used by those swimming in the lake who are only deriving the droplets that stick or adhere to their clothes, but the actual amount of water that the people derive for their use on the land side, in the ground. So baka tama rin yung ating distinction dun sa in the region in the earlier question. My next question, Mr. Speaker, again, these are clarificatory because, again, I am not an expert on water management. In line 11 of this section, it mentions the conduct of zoning. Is this zoning similar to the zoning? Are we talking about the zoning of the community surrounding the lake to, for example, state that these are not zones for residential areas, or is there a separate zoning for water resources?
We believe, Mr. Speaker, that when we say zoning, it is about the Lake Lanao. So meaning iba po yung zoning na ginagawa ng ibang agencies. So this is purely for Lake Lanao zoning, kung ano yung zones nga na pwede or hindi, or classification ng different zones.
May we know what are the examples of zones that are allowed in bodies of water such as Lake Lanao?
At this point, Mr. Speaker, I cannot answer that because, as I've said, the expert should be the one to do the comprehensive survey. So magsa-survey pa po tayo, Mr. Speaker. Sila po yung magbibigay sa atin ng ano yung mga allowed at hindi allowed na activities sa Lake Lanao.
Mr. Speaker, I agree that the survey is required to conduct the zoning, but the actual zones, the classification of the zones are something that are known to the experts already. And I hope we can find out, because it might be that the zoning, I'm only guessing at this point, Mr. Speaker, again, I'm not an expert, but it might be that these are the only fishing zones in the Lake Lanao. And beyond this are zones that can only be plied by water crafts of this certain tonnage. Something like that, Mr. Speaker, is I think material in the discussion of the functions of the RDA. And I think it pays to have the Parliament informed of those technical information when we talk about creating an office that has technical functions. I hope we only provide or devolve functions to offices of which there is a level of understanding on the level of Parliament before we do so. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we can reserve a clearer answer on that question, but I hope we are able to also clarify, because that affects the livelihood, for example, of the people in the surrounding localities. And the Parliament, I believe, should have some level of balancing of these realities of subsistence fisher folks versus the the creation of this authority. So we might need to provide safeguards if that's the case in the conduct of zoning or some basic guidelines in the conduct of zoning of the RDA if it entails or it has an impact on other exercise of rights of the people around that area. So the balancing can only happen if we are well informed, Mr. Speaker, of what we are faced with.
We take note of that, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, a 15-minute break for ASA prayer.
How many minutes? 15 minutes break. Session suspended for 15 minutes.